Hi guys, Josh Lloyd here for your NBA DraftKings first look for Wednesday. We've got 10 games on. Let's talk about those games now. The first one is a rescheduled game, the Detroit Pistons and the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors are going to be missing a bunch of players. Fred VanVleet is out. OG Anunoby is out. Pascal Siakam is out. Malachi Flynn is out. And Pat McCaw is out. So, their lineup really in flux. You would imagine Lowry, Norm Powell, they get starts. But who starts in the other spots? Boucher? DeAndre Bembry, Aaron Baines, probably. Yuta Watanabe can be in there. They've called up Jalen Harris as well from the G League, so he could be getting some minutes. Terrence Davis could be in the mix. It's going to be a wild one. Let's have a look at where some of the value lies in this matchup, though. And I think we have to start with Kyle Lowry, who's at 8,100, and he's going to be handling the ball a ton. There's no VanVleet to take assists away. He's going to be getting a ton of shots up there as well. I'm pretty interested in Kyle Lowry at that price. I'm also interested in Terrence Davis. Now, Davis is only at 3,400, and some nights he barely plays. But he can also go out there and drop 15s. He can drop 20s. He can drop 17s. Look, 22-point performance here in 26 minutes. No reason he can't be a 20-point player in this game. Boucher at 6,400 is also an option. They're going to have to play him at power forward and at center. Should push up to 30 minutes, hopefully, fingers crossed. They don't have too many other options. So he's another good guy to have a look at there. And if you want to take a flyer on someone, I think looking at maybe Yuta Watanabe at 3,100, Yuta's going to have to play minutes with their Siakam and Anunoby, their two power forwards, out. So he's going to have to get minutes there. He could be worth a look. You know, in terms of other Raptors players, you're looking at Matt Thomas's and Jalen Harris and Stanley Johnson's, Aaron Baines. I'm not particularly interested in them. I could be convinced with DeAndre Bembry, though. I think he's going to play a ton of minutes, and at 3,700, he's going to get opportunities. There's still value on Detroit as well. 4,900, Dennis Smith Jr. He's been getting 27, 28 minutes a night most nights, ahead of Saban Lee the last three. I like the matchup for him. I think it makes sense. Norm Powell, I should have talked about him when talking about Raptors. Norman Powell at 6,700. He's been shooting the lights out. His minutes are going to be sky high. His usage is going to be up. Got to love him here in this one as well. I'd be pretty hesitant about using someone like Mason Plumlee, who has been losing some minutes to Isaiah Stewart of late. And Josh Jackson, I think, is too high at 6,200, as is Sadiq Bey at 5,700. Jeremy Grant at 76. Now, Grant missed the last game with a calf issue. There's a chance he misses again here. I don't mind it if he plays, but I wouldn't say he's in my best bunch of plays for the day. Just he's been good this year, but sometimes he does tend to be a little bit under where the DFS price lies. The next game that we take a look at here, the Indiana Pacers. They are taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. In Cleveland, we know Taurean Prince is questionable for this one, while the Pacers are going to list Doug McDermott and Jeremy Lamb as questionable after McDermott broke his tooth last game and Lamb was dealing with knee soreness. Malcolm Brogdon is back, though. He's at 7,900, and I think it makes a bit of sense to use him against this sort of defensive backcourt, while Miles Turner at 6,000. We've seen centers have some pretty good success against Jarrett Allen this year. Turner is a tough one. He's probably more tournaments than cash, but he's got value. And Colin Sexton at 77. He's really turned it around the last few games, and I do like his matchup in this one. Darius Garland probably a little bit too highly priced for me. I guess you could have a look at Dean Wade. I'm not going to be particularly excited there, but they're 4-0 with him starting, so I don't think that's changing. He's played 20-plus minutes in those 4 starts. I don't think that's changing, but he's not a big DFS producer. Sabonis is back under 10,000, and that's exciting. 9,700 for Sabonis. His numbers haven't been the best. 38 over the last 3 is not ideal, but he can easily get to 50 here, and it's more the matchup that gets me excited versus what he's currently doing in terms of his form, which has been, again, a little bit down. Next game, we take a look at the Utah Jazz and the Philadelphia 76ers. Injury-wise, Tobias Harris is questionable. Now, with Harris out, we had Mike Scott last game starting, and then we had guys like Shake Milton pick up a bit of usage in that scenario. Embiid is at 10,400. He's historically done okay against Gobert. I think he'll be fine for close to 50. So he makes a lot of sense. Mike Conley at 6,500. I'd probably fade off of that, and I will have absolutely no trust in Bojan Bogdanovic. Yes, Bogdanovic dropped 51 last game, but that brings his 5-game average up to 27. So that's how bad those other games were. 7,500 for Rudy Gobert continues to look really low. Yes, Embiid is a tough matchup, but Gobert's a really good player, and I think he can beat that number. While Mitchell at 8,500 is not one that I'm interested in. I am interested in Shake, at $5,000 if Tobias Harris is out. Milton had 38 points last game without Tobias Harris, and Ben Simmons at 9.2 probably looks too high, and I don't think I'd want to use Tobias even if he does play at the 7,900 mark. Jordy Clarkson's at 6.3, which looks all right for cash, but I wouldn't say that it's necessarily a great tournament upside play. It feels like that's sort of about the right value for him. Next up, Brooklyn and Houston. No, unlikely to have Jeff Green, unlikely to have Timothé Luwawu-Cabarrot in this one. While for the Rockets is Daniel House and Eric Gordon, who are both questionable. There is some value in this game, I believe. We just have to see how it all plays out. And I guess the big news here is James Harden. Heading back to Houston, I don't believe for a single second in revenge games, but I believe that James Harden is excellent, and I believe the Rockets are terrible. And that, to me, is a fantastic recipe. 10 or 11,000 for James Harden against this shithouse Rockets team, with how good he is with no Kevin Durant, sign me up. Also, sign me up on Kyrie Irving at 9,400. I think there's value in both of those guys. Nick Claxton was the talk of last game. He put up an absolute monster of a performance. He had 30 fantasy points in only 17 minutes. And I think that 17 minutes is probably the key. Blocks are plenty. Steals, 78% shooting. There's a lot of unsustainability that with Claxton, but at 3,300, why wouldn't you take a flyer that he gets more minutes than the 17 that he got last game? DeAndre Jordan had an inexcusably large amount of minutes, 35 minutes last game for 37 points. And I do think that he's not a bad option. I wouldn't want to use both him and Claxo together, but there is some value if Nash does decide to go with Jordan there. Justin Patton on the other side has started and played pretty good minutes for 2 games in a row for the Rockets. They're not translating into huge DraftKings nights, but 26 last game is totally fine, and we've seen centers have big games against Brooklyn this season. The Shark Bruce Brown's at 5,300. His lowest score in his last 5 games is 27 points. He's shooting the lights out, and by shooting I mean finishing at the rim, the lights out, which doesn't have quite as catchy a feel. But Brown is an option here with Durant and Luwawu-Cabarrot and Green all sidelined. Oladipo at 79 doesn't really get it going for me, nor does Eric Gordon. But John Wall at 8,300. I like what Johnny is doing. He's been really aggressive. He's scoring quite a bit. His assists are fine. I like John Wall at 8,300. There is a bit of value there in that one for me. The next one, the Battle of the McDanielses. Charlotte, Minnesota, 8 p.m. Eastern for this game. No Devontae Graham again for Charlotte, while Gordon Hayward and Cody Zeller are both questionable. Of course, no D'Angelo Russell or Malik Beasley for Minnesota. Karl Anthony Towns, $10,000 for Townsy. I like it. Look, is Charlotte stopping him? Probably not. He's averaging 62 his last 3 games against Charlotte. I'm in on that. Anthony Edwards is up to 6,900, and while that's nice, it's also maybe a little bit too expensive. Edwards has inefficiencies, but he is racking up big usage and big volume on what he's doing. So I do think that there is value in him, and LaMelo is up at 9,200. Why, you ask? Because he's just ripping teams multiple new assholes, really. 61, 50, 42, 41 the last 3 games. Now, 41 is not enough at 9,200, so that's why I'm a little bit hesitant about using LaMelo here, but honestly, at this point, he just can't be stopped, and I don't really think the Wolves are the team that's going to stop him, if it's going to be anybody. PJ Washington Jr., 6,700. Look, he went from 66 points to 10 points. That is a very hard swing to stomach. I think his value is up if Zeller is out, but that obviously didn't apply last game against Portland, where he was terrible. If you want to take a flyer on someone, Jalen Noel is a guy that can come in and shoot shots. And if they go in, then that works out. If it doesn't go in, then it's useless. But I think Noel at that 4,000 mark has some appeal. Monk's at 57. I'm not particularly interested in that, nor am I with 7,900 for Terry Rozier. And then Jake Layman, almost a minimum salary player. The talk from Chris Finch was he wanted to work the veterans in, and then he gave Layman 30 minutes. In that 30-minute game, he had 23 DraftKings points. So it's not sensational, but it's fine at basically minimum salary. And I wouldn't be super confident with it, but I'm also looking that if I'm looking for a very cheap guy to put in who could be a reasonable part of a rotation, maybe Layman is that. Maybe he's that guy that we can try in that scenario. Next game we take a look at is the Chicago Bulls and the New Orleans Pelicans. The The Pelicans are 5.5-point favorites here, and the total is 236.5. Wendell Carter Jr. has been pretty poor the last 2 games. I think there is a worry that Zion bullies him here, so I'm not really all that keen there. Brandon Ingram at 8,400 feels like it's a little bit too high. He's averaging 42 over the last 5, but just 38 over the last 3. And Levine at 9,500. Since he's been named an All-Star, his production has fallen off massively. 38 average over the last 3. That's not particularly good. Zion is also up to over 9,000, and we love what Zion's doing. Do I want to spend 9,000 on him? I reckon the answer might be yes, because his lowest score in his last 5 games is 47 DraftKings points. He's averaging 50 over the last 5. So while that price looks scary, I think it's actually fine. Kobe White's at 6,500, and he's been all right. He's been in that area. He's really supplementing some poor shooting nights with some big rebounding nights. I wouldn't feel particularly comfortable with using him, nor would I feel particularly comfortable in using 6,100 on Thad Young. But they're there if that's the way you want to go. Atlanta and Orlando. The Hawks are 4-point favorites in this game. They're coming off a back-to-back where they beat the Heat. The total is 225. Evan Fournier is questionable for the Magic, while we don't know whether Cam Reddish will play. For the Hawks, he's missed a bunch of time with his Achilles issue. I also would assume that the newly returned Bogdan Bogdanovic for Atlanta sits this out. He played on Tuesday, and it's a back-to-back. I just don't think he comes back and plays in this one. Trae Young's at 9,600. His last 3 games against Orlando have been very profitable. He's been averaging 57 points in those ones, and I think we can use him at 9,600. Capella at 81 also looks pretty good to me under new coach Nate McMillan. And then you've got Fournier, who's questionable. I think he's a bit too high at 6,700. And then Nikola Vucevic at 10,300. Love Vuce at that one, especially if we do hear if Fournier is ruled out. I like Carter Williams a little bit at 5,600. He played well last game. He had, 39 DraftKings points. He's been a bit up and down, but I think he can get you almost a minimum of 25, which is not a bad floor play there. And if Fournier is out, Dwayne Bacon's going to get a chance to start. That means he also gets a massive chance to suck, but he does get a chance to start. So in a weird GPP scenario, maybe you look at him there. And I would look, if Fournier is out, I'd look at Terrence Ross pretty closely at 6,300 because he will get a lot of shot attempts. Not massively into John Collins. Didn't close the game for the Hawks, in which Nate McMillan said it's matchup based, and that's got to be a worry for you if they don't value him as a core piece that's not matchup proof. That is a bit of a worry. But I don't mind him considering the salary that he's down to. 6,900 for Collins is only a GPP look for me, though. The Thunder and the Mavericks. The Mavs are 7.5-point favorites in this one. 8:30 p.m. tip-off in Dallas against the Thunder. No George Hill again, of course. Luka Doncic has crept up as injured. Well, crept up as questionable with a back issue. 10,900 for Luka. I'll leave that alone. I just don't want to deal with him with an injury here at this point. Porzingis at 8,200. I actually like that for KP. I think that at that salary, he can be a 40-point guy pretty comfortably and probably exceed that. Or Darius Bazley at 55. It's always hard to recommend using Bazley, but he did play well last game. He had 31 points. He's at least in the mix. Jalen Brunson at 5,300, I love. I love what he's doing as their best guard off the bench, putting up some really strong numbers. And Gilgeous-Alexander's salary has risen all the way up to 8,800. Why is that? Well, he's averaging 45 over the last 5. I don't feel particularly confident in using him at that salary, but he is at least an option for us. Next game is the Warriors and the Blazers, and this is listed as a pick'em in Vegas. No lean either way. Get off the fence, my guys. The total here is 235 points. Steph Curry, 9,900. He has got a very, very good record against Portland. He averages 56 points in the last 3 times out against them. Under 10,000, Steph Curry is a Steph Curry that I am interested in. I think we can look at Lillard, but we have to spend $700 more to get Damian Lillard in there. Now, his record against the Warriors is just as good, if not better. In fact, it's actually very much better. 64 points the last 3 times against Golden State. Andy Wiggins is at 6,200. No, thank you. Enes Kanter at 75 is too high. Kelly Oubre's at 7,000. I'm not massively into that. And then Bob Covington at 6,000. Absolutely just a wild card option who can go completely haywire and can also go completely haywire in the other direction. So it is really tough to rely upon him. Carmelo Anthony had an absolute monster last game. 51 points against the Hornets. That brings his 5-game average up to 27, which at 5,400 is all right. But remember, it took a 50-point game to get up to that average. So I wouldn't be using him in any cash lineup. And I think there could be some worry with him defensively, or the fact that they can just put Draymond onto him to potentially slow down some of that stuff that he was doing against Charlotte. Last game of the day is the Lakers. They're taking on the Kings. The Lakers are in a bit of trouble here. We don't know if Marc Gasol's going to play. He missed Tuesday due to COVID protocols. Kyle Kuzma was out on Tuesday. Anthony Davis, of course, will remain out here, while the Kings are going to be without Hassan Whiteside and Tyrese Halliburton yet again. It is a back-to-back. LeBron's at 10-5. You can have that one. But I tell you who I am interested in, which is not a word that, or not a phrase that will often come out of my mouth, and that's 6,600 from Marvin Bagley. Bagley, with no Whiteside, with no Halliburton, his minutes will push up. His usage will push up, and he can be an 18-9 guy here, which gives him, 35, 37 fantasy points. I think it's all right to use him. 9,000 for De'Aaron Fox feels high, but if Buddy Hield, who is also questionable, is out, Fox is going to get a shit ton of usage, and with no Halliburton, he's going to get a shit ton of assists. I like him quite a bit here as well. Hield's at 64. No, you can take that one. While Harrison Barnes at $7,000. Barnes has been playing a massive role, averaging 45 over the last 3. I'm a little bit hesitant with him, but I think there is some value in him. And I guess if we hear that Kuzma's out again, maybe we can take a flyer on a sub 4,000 Markieff Morris. 3,700 to be exact for Markieff, and I think that could work for you. All right, guys, that'll do it for me today. Should I give you? Yeah, let's do it. Let's go in and just give some early value plays across the slate. Of course, this stuff's going to open up later on. Justin Patton, Terrence Davis in Toronto, Karl Anthony Towns, Kyle Lowry, Chris Boucher, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Trae Young, DeAndre Jordan, Porzingis, Dennis Smith Jr., and maybe a bit of Joshy Hart and Norm Powell thrown in there as well. Guys, that'll do it for me today. Hit the notification bell. Give me a thumbs up. Find my channel linked in the title and in the description, guys. We are done here. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. See ya.